When you think of stop motion animation toys, what comes to mind? Maybe Stickfaz, Shakinis, or Stikbots come to mind. Or maybe Bots and Sticky Bones. But when you think about it, a lot of these guys, they're not really targeted for stop motion specifically. Now, in terms of the stop motion market, it's a very hard market. Pretty much Stickbot corners it as of right now, and I guess Stickfaz and Bots, but it's really Stickbot. But cornering the market isn't really saying a lot because they're still not that popular. It's very obscure. So, like, Lego will always dominate stop motion stuff. We'll just never really get to that point where it doesn't, but it's fine. So, what is something that attempted to get into the market and failed? That's right, we are talking about the Easy Animation Studio by Crayola, one of the most underrated pieces of tech from 2015 in my opinion. We'll get back to this later a little bit, but right before we get into this, I just want to say, why was there such a push for stop motion toys in 2015? With the build and animate stuff, it's weird. Anyway, so to explain this, we need to go into a little bit of Crayola lore. So Crayola Alive, I don't know if it's still going on, but basically you get this like coloring book, and then you draw in the coloring book, okay? And then it pops out in like a 3D, it's a little 3D model that dances around. You can tap it and it does funny stuff. I would assume that these sold pretty well, but I don't really know all the Crayola business margins. But this led them to creating the Easy Animation Studio, which is a pretty cool piece of tech. So the first thing that you do is grab your coloring book, which has templates, and you basically fill into the template. They have like templates you could draw on, but you could just create your own little character. And for this, it'll be a superhero. Then you scan this into the app, and then it creates the superhero as a 3D model. Then you can animate the 3D model using the actual physical model, which uses a sort of motion capture based system where all of the limbs, like all of the lines on the limbs, the camera recognizes and corresponds to a limb on the 3D model, which then allows it to move and create seamless animation. Now, I'm sure you guys can already see some of the cracks forming, with the animation having to be, like, you have to animate it standing up, 9:16, which is horrible. Never do that unless it's for a short. But even then, it can still be pretty hard and just overall kind of clunky. Like, it needs a custom stand to look up, like, diagonally to get the proper angle. It's horrible. Now, if we take a look at the app, we can see even more issues. I understand that, like, you know, this is this thing made for children, but that looks like a frame limit cap, which really sucks. Why can you only make so many frames? Plus, the app, they've kind of prioritized pre-made animations and stuff, which is what led to most of the animations you'll see online being like this, instead of actually animated stop motions. Another thing that shows how young of a demographic this was made for was that it was made so there wouldn't be that many keyframes. You were meant to not have too many. It would literally smooth out the frames so you didn't have to shoot that much, which I guess is cool, but once again it kind of restricts. If you could turn that off, I think it'd be fine. Now, with all its faults being like literally one of the worst apps ever created, I still think that it's kind of cool. I mean, they basically created a motion capture in a toy, which is something you don't see too often, especially in 2015, and this is pretty advanced, I'd say. The original retail price seems to be around $25 US, which is actually pretty good, I think. Now, pretty much everyone I've ever talked to about this, including myself, nobody wants this for the tech. They all want it for the figure. And it makes sense. This figure is extremely cool looking and unique. It's made of this weird, almost like silicone rubber, and it's very odd. The upper leg and shoulder joints are ratchet joints, similarly to Posums. And a lot of parts like the head and torso are actually ball joints. The torso's a bit loose on mine. So are the arms and lower legs because of, well, it's rubber. It just degrades over time, which sucks, but that's how it is. So we attach this to a green stand, which is also a ratchet joint, and yeah, it's very fun to spin, actually. The stand holds the figure very tightly, and it can actually be kind of hard to detach them. And just like his fellow Stickbot friend, it cracks into place without the stand. When this guy would have come out, I'm sure he would have posed a lot better. Now he doesn't really pose that well, actually. Like he actually poses pretty badly if you have a loose one. But if you have a tight one, it can be really fun. I remember when I first got him, it was really fun to pose. I actually got mine at a thrift store for like either $12 or $17, somewhere in between. And yeah, I wanted to get this guy for years, but I could never find him for sale online, and I finally got him, and it was very happy, even though the app was discontinued and Crayola didn't really want you to remember him. Why is that, and what caused him to fail? So because this is 2015, Crayola worked with Zach King, which is actually really cool, and they got to make this little short, which I'm sure you've seen before. It blew up. And so that's how I get introduced to Clash of the Crayons, which is a very cool little short. It's like 3 minutes long. I'd recommend watching it. And it basically just demonstrates the basic version of this app. Is what it should have done. This really doesn't actually demonstrate the app at all. See, it starts off with Zach King creating all these little characters, but he throws them away. He creates a superhero, and he uses the app correctly. He puts it on the screen. It creates a 3D model. Then it pops out of the screen and becomes a 2D model to save the day. I feel like this completely defeats the purpose of like creating a 3D model so then it becomes a 2D piece of paper. I feel like Crayola could emphasize that you're making a 2D dimensional thing into a 3D virtual thing, which is really cool, but they just never emphasize this in their ads and their promotional stuff. On the box, they emphasize instead the fact that you can make 10 whole characters. In this video also, they don't really emphasize this figurine, which is like also kind of sucks. This is what Crayola did too. They never really, like, everyone wanted this for the figurine, but they never emphasized the figurine. It's really weird. Also, I don't even think that they ever gave it a proper name. Overall, from what I've gathered, it seems like that they were trying to market this towards a really young audience, when the people who are interested in stop motion are usually not that really young of an audience. So it just kind of all clashes, and it's really weird. And overall, this figure didn't really sell too well. Well, it did sell well, but it kind of oversold, or there were too many produced, because you can literally find it on eBay for $2 sealed. So Crayola fumbled a bit, and it's not too bad. I mean, now you can find something at thrift stores, and it's kind of like a fun little find, part of history, and it's pretty cheap if you want to get it. This is where they really messed up. So the app was deleted like a year after it was created, which is a really short lifespan, but yeah, it's very odd. Normally, even obscure things like this will have an archive somewhere, but I don't think that there is actually an archive, so maybe this could be considered lost media. I think the issue is, with Stikbots, you could create movies, you could create all this, you don't have to really restrict them to a specific app, but this was a lot more restrictive in a way, and you couldn't really create a full hour-long movie or something with these guys, which is a major issue, so there wasn't really that much content being made from them, and there wasn't much you could make. In my quick search, I was only able to really find 2 major videos. This is an unlisted video of a pretty good stop motion where a kid just unboxes the thing and then puts it up and then it, walks on its own stuff. I enjoyed it and it was pretty good. It's a little less than 2 minutes long. The second one right here could probably be considered the first Crayola tuber or something, maybe the last, and it is pretty much just this. It's a Crayola guy who he's chilling and then he gets attacked by the crayons and moved away. It is a 2-part series that I think is less than 40 seconds long altogether. Hilariously, the only other animation I could think of that used it was mine, which should stay buried and we'll never discuss again. But I think that's it. And so my final conclusion is that Crayola kind of failed with this on all fronts. I mean, they literally did everything badly. They failed in the marketing. They didn't market this stuff right. I mean, it was a good deal, but it was still almost $30, which is kind of pricey. It wasn't optimized that well. People who want to get into animation want to do it. They don't want to go halfway in. They want to go full in. So it's just kind of weird to limit the app so much. They prioritized like bad movement over good movement, which is the whole point of animation. It's weird. Overall, I think that if they launched it now with focusing on the figure more than the actual software, then it could have done a lot better. And I think another major contender is like the fact that they could have released multiple versions of the figure. There were 2 made because of the prototype one, but I think this one recognized symbols more. Anyway, that is a discussion for another day. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you have any other animation toy recommendations, comment them down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.